Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is the Listening Mentor Show, and we are going to be discussing relationship resilience, overcoming the odds. And before the show began, I just had a breakup that was truly, it left me screaming. It was with the iguana. That's another story. So let's welcome the star of our show, Caroline HEWARD. She is the Harley Street stress expert, and she's going to share some powerful tips about relationships. Welcome.
Hello. It's wonderful to be here on a Friday night. For me, it's Friday night.
It's great to have you here. And as you know, come next week, we will be 4 hours times difference instead of 5 for about a week or so.
We will. How long is it before it changes in the US?
I don't really know. I think it's sometime in November. I have to look it up. But it's the time of year that I don't like because it's darker earlier and it just seems that we have less daylight. What about you?
Same. It's dark in the morning and it's dark in the evening.
I think that you would know better, but I think that affects relationships as well. When people are feeling, you lose an hour or do you gain an hour? I forget. Fall back.
Because the clocks fall back, we gain an hour in bed. So they go back at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, and then it's actually 1 a.m. when it goes back.
Okay. So for those people who are in relationships, you get an extra hour in bed. That could be good, could be bad. I don't know.
It could be.
So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your work. You, in addition to helping people bust their stress, in all seriousness, you are a certified therapist and you hear all kinds of things that people are going through and you help them with that. So tell us more.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. I help people break through the challenges that they have in their everyday lives. So it could be anything. It could be a relationship issue. It could be a bereavement issue. It could be OCD, a behavioral thing that's going on. It could be that they don't sleep or they have some physical ache and pain. And it could be that they just don't feel happy anymore. They feel depressed or sad, or they feel uncomfortable with life, like there's something missing. Whatever it is, essentially, I work with the person to identify the root cause. What I do is root cause therapy using chakra psychology. And identifying the root cause, sometimes it can reveal itself that the symptom appeared almost in their childhood or many, many years before. And this is like a repeat pattern. So I'm a behaviorist as well as a therapist. So I help people literally change their behaviors, because you can't change what you don't know about. So when you become aware of your behavior, it's at that point that you can change. I offer a free consultation on Zoom, Skype, or audio, call, messenger, video, and audio. If you're camera shy, audio. You can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk. Please reach out and we can organise a free 30-minute consultation, or call on +44 0 if you're local in the UK, 7523 120 189.
Absolutely. Do reach out to Caroline. She is a breath of fresh air and will absolutely help you. You will feel better. Caroline, I love the title, Relationship Resilience, because relationships are tough. It takes actual work. And I was out today for a walk and I was thinking to myself how happy I am that I'm not in a relationship because I'm just not interested in doing any more work. And so then I thought the fact that I feel that way, I'm giving off those signals, I imagine, because I'm communicating without communicating. And that happens a lot of times in relationships as well, where you have to have that resilience and you have to actually put in the time and the effort. So what do you think it are some of the reasons that we don't have resilience, that there's so many divorces, that there's so many arguments? I know it's a big topic, but what do you think is the underlying foundation, if there is anything that's foundational?
There is. The first relationship is self. So when we're in a relationship, whether it be intimate or a friendship, or even, sort of a friendship relationship with the opposite sex or the same sex. So it doesn't matter if it's not an intimate relationship, but we're relating and in relationship with everything and everyone around us. And so it's about what we are feeling. And if there is something going on for us, so if we're feeling angry about something or rejected about something or feeling that we have to battle, that's what will appear in our friendships and relationships, because we're relating to everything. We're in a relational ship with everything and everyone. And the first relationship is self. And so you can change. If you don't like what's on the external that's showing up for you, you can then do some inner work, believe it or not, and change how you start to feel in that relationship. And even though you're saying you're not in a relationship, you are, because we're all in a relationship with ourselves.
Excellent point. I'm so glad that you shared that. And I think when we think about the word resilience, to me, that's something that happens over time. And if you look at relationships, even on our team, we have Red O'Loughlin, and he and his wife have been married 50 some years. I mean, think about that. That's incredible. And if you think about how it was, you and I are from the same generation, but in corporate, in your career, I mean, I worked for AT&T and I thought I'd stay there for my entire life. That's, cradle to grave, as they would say. So have things changed in energy levels? Maybe that resilience is not a lifetime. It's not 50 years. It's not 20 years. Maybe it's 3 weeks. I don't know. Has the definition of resilience changed, do you think?
Well, I believe that certainly, as we both come from the same generation, and my parents, they married for keeps. Despite if there's anything that's not right, back in the 60s, people married and they tended to stay married because that was the culture of that society at that point. And now there is much more openness about things not working, and people, it seems to be easier to get a divorce now, or to separate, or to say things don't work. And I do believe that I was researching, because I got divorced in 2006, and you could only divorce in the UK under 3 ways. And I recently researched it, and you can actually get now divorced in a no fault either way. So it's actually, probably a quickie divorce. And I do feel that there isn't the work involved that it needs in a lot of relationships to make a relationship work. When I've spoken to people that have been together, for 40, 50 years, they tend to say, I love them and I wouldn't change them, but we have our trials and tribulations, but we just work them out. And I do feel that it seems that there's much more that's thrown at us as a society, that we don't tend to work out stuff within the relationship as easily.
Excellent points. And what's coming up for me is when you think about the pandemic and what everyone went through, we realized how important it is to socialize. Apparently, I haven't embraced this as of yet, but we realized that socialization is important. The other thing that's important is time. And time is so valuable that and I mentioned this now, I'm 60 and a half, and I'm looking at things very differently than I was when I was 59, because I'm saying to myself, what do I want to do with this time that I have? So how do people actually balance the commitment that they made to be in a relationship with the fact that it's not working and there only is so much time in life?
Well, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Many people now, and this is why I feel that there's less resilience from a relationship point of view and more resilience in the work perspective, because we have to be. Whereas back in the 60s and 70s, there wasn't so much impetus in the way that it is today in terms of work. So what do you do? Well, many people now are busier because when we were working in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, there wasn't social media. Now there is like sort of a no gap between the 9 to 5 at work and going home and then being expected to read messages and to respond to emails. It just wasn't like that back then in the way that it is today. And so I feel that our work and the way that we work with it in terms of the demands of our work culture in the Western culture is that we are more responsive through our communication, whereas previously in sort of previous years and previous decades we didn't have that, so we could literally switch off. But many people don't switch off. They're still at work. They take work home with them. And so my advice there is to recognize that that is what it is, and we are in a different generational experience, and to embrace the fact that it is different and find time, diarize time. I've actually recommended, and I've been in training that, recommend date nights and nights that you set aside, times that you set aside for your family, for children, and for your relationship. So just like making an appointment in your diary for a work colleague or a work meeting, you diarize time for your relationships, whether they be intimate or friendships, and also diarize time for yourself.
I really like that. And even if you're single, you can make yourself a priority. You should make yourself, we shouldn't use the word should, but make yourself a priority by whatever it is. I know for me, I'd love to go and get a massage or get a pedicure, these things. I'm always like, yeah, I'm going to do it this weekend. And then I think, God, if like spending the money, spending the time, forget it. Let's rub my own foot. So, but it is important to take care of ourselves. So the other part of the title of this episode is overcoming the odds. So when we think about it, it was 1 out of every 2 relationships, marriages were, likely to end. What do you think, aside from observing it in your own family, and you were talking about your family, my family, the same, but what else do you think that it takes so that people stay together for decades?
There is a lot of change that we are having to handle in terms of our changing work styles and work commitments. And also in that, I feel that careers have changed in terms of, as you mentioned earlier on, Dr. Jacalyn, that there was known as a job for life. You started at 16 and you finished at 60, and that was it. You had your pension. But now it's not the same. And so my feeling from that perspective is that there is difficulties with people in relationships having to manage those work changes. And the against all odds is essentially having to manage all the external factors of life as well as the working and family factors of life. And the against all odds, really, there's a lot more people now that are doing personal self-development, involvement work. They've got coaches and mentors. I certainly, when I was growing up, I hadn't heard of people having coaches and mentors. Only the people that were really, really rich, would have like a mentor or a coach or somebody that looked after them, or an agent. And now I feel that that's more commonplace. And we are growing and evolving with our changes. And there seems to be much more understanding as people that we go through life changes and we don't always survive them. You know, there's a lot of understanding now about trauma, mental health issues, anxiety, depression, whereas back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and early noughties, it wasn't really that commonly understood. And I feel it's much more of a conversation. And so when we are going down that therapy type route, we can evolve and change, not necessarily for the worse, for the better. And so the relationship then, the vibration, the frequency that you're at when you entered into that relationship, you will have changed if you've done any involvement work on yourself, personal self-development work. And so if the other person hasn't, or you've changed frequency and vibration, your frequency won't match anymore. And so then it's that you grow apart rather than anybody did anything wrong. And so I don't believe now that it's necessarily that the person will stay with you forever. And in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, there wasn't so much of that going on in the way that it is in today's society.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think also you touched on this. You actually had an episode in your Talking Heads about retirement and the emotional toll that that can take. So when we were growing up, it was, oh, you work to a certain age and then you retire, as you were just mentioning. And now I know I retired from corporate, you retired from corporate. We're entrepreneurs. We love what we're doing. So it's another chapter in our lives. And that's the same for other people as well. Or maybe they've just decided, hey, I've put in the time and now I'm just going to enjoy myself. And that has an impact on relationships as well. If you're used to your significant other, your spouse, going somewhere, working somewhere, and then all of a sudden they're around all the time, that can affect your resilience too.
It can. I wouldn't like it. Did I say that out loud? I really said that out loud, didn't I? I prefer to, you know, I'm quite busy and I have lots of things that I do, and I tend to attract people that of the same ilk, that have a busy schedule or things that they're doing that they're interested in, and that's good on one level, because then you both have your things that you do and you're interested in doing, and then you come together to share. If somebody was around me 24/7, I think that I would really I'll be really challenged by that, because I like to be in a relationship with myself. I like my, you know, my space to go and do a yoga nidra meditation or a dancing meditation. I'm not quite sure that a new man in my life would actually cope with anything like that. So I would need my space to do things like that.
Yeah, therein is the rub, so to speak, because like you, I'm the same way. And it's kind of like, do you want to change that part of your life? There's only so much free time. And if you are already happy with what you're doing, and I know that you have certain things that really bring you joy, are you going to take time away from that so you can be resilient and overcome the odds with the relationship?
I must admit, I have had a few very long and, you know, deep relationships, and I feel from those relationships, you compromise, you share some things, you do some things on your own, and you do some things together, and then you decide what you do together and what you share. So I was very lucky, really. The people that I did have those long relationships with, and the person that I got married to, they also were quite busy people, and they had that allowance, really, that they did their thing, I did my thing, and we did some stuff together, and then they had their space in their work and I had my space, and it kind of worked. And it's not always the same, and I think that's just my frequency, my vibration of what I attract. And I feel that that works for me, because I want the other person that's going to share my life to be equally interested in what they're doing and have something that they do that's entrepreneurial, because I am. And, you know, I'm 60 next year and I have no inclination of even considering retirement or anything like that. I'll be going till, I don't know, 80 or 90 maybe. So I think that it would be good to have somebody to share that free space and my beautiful home with, rather than feeling that we have to be together and joined at the hip 24/7.
Well, that's an interesting point that you brought up, because, and I've seen and heard about this more and more, where as people are aging, they want to stay in their own home and they don't necessarily want to be with the other person 24 hours a day. So you have your space, I have my space, we get together and then we go back to each other's respective spaces. Is that a plan for overcoming the odds, or is that something that's going to ruin the odds?
Well, I've known couples do that. You know, they've been together for years and they both have their respective homes that they're very happy in. And then they come together and they share things together. And, you know, I've seen that a lot in some of my friends in terms of their relationships. So it does seem to be an option that people go for. I don't know. I'm really open. You know, I'm kind of, I've got a really lovely large house now. And it, you know, there's room to share it, and if I keep filling it, there won't be. You know, so I'm sort of I'm on the, you know, on the openness of that, in terms of you know, whoever comes in will be equally as busy and be doing their thing as well. So the space that we create together will be wonderful, and I feel that that is almost like a secret recipe, that you don't do everything together, that you have your own things that you do, things that you enjoy, and then so that you have something then to bring into the relationship, so that that keeps a spark going. Because I feel that if you are together all of the time, then, you know, it can sometimes maybe get a little boring, or it might be challenging. And I do feel that sometimes some of the best relationships that I've heard that have stayed for a long time over the decades both have their own things that they do outside within their work and in their external interests, and then they share some of their external things with their partner, and it works. So I feel very much that I've had those kinds of relationships, and I'm sure that, you know, the next one will be the same.
There's an expression that I'm not sure is still valid, because I just read a study that was done that contradicted it, but the statement was opposites attract. And this study that I read was basically how when you're more in common, you're more likely to be together for a long time. So what are your thoughts about that? Because I always thought if somebody's different than you, then that gives you curiosity and gives you things to talk about, because you're not so much the same. But I guess if you're different in some key areas, that might be a challenge, like religion, for example.
Well, yes, I can actually attest to the types of people that I tend to be attracting in terms of friendships, both male and female, and intimate relationships in terms of marriage and partner in terms of dating, is that every single person has been very technical, and I'm not. So they've been like sort of very science driven and very what I would call left brain, whereas I'm very right brain, very creative. They're much more on the engineering, mechanical, technical, accountancy side. So much more of that sort of left brained engineering sciences type person, whereas I'm much more the promotional, the marketing, the fluffy, the ethereal, the meditation type of person. And that seems to really work because I'm very interested in the differences and I'm fascinated by their skills. Even though I'm not that way inclined, I work hard to do the things that I have to do to make it work. And I seem to attract people that have those sorts of skills. And it works because I don't want them to be the same as me. I actually enjoy that. That's a challenging difference that I enjoy being with, because it makes me light up because I'm so interested, and they then become interested in me too, because the experience of what I'm experiencing then vibrates to them, and they're interested in what I do.
Sounds like you have it all figured out.
Well, it's when it works, it works. But when you outgrow each other, you outgrow each other. I mean, I always laugh because my clients tend to be, and every time I meet somebody that's a friend or a potential person that I would go out with, I always laugh because they tell me that they're an ex-banker or an ex uh, um, trader or stockbroker or barrister or solicitor, and it just makes me smile. I just think, oh gosh, that thing works again, and I laugh not at them, at the fact that I'm in recognition of it. That sort of, and if I was dating an American guy who was absolutely amazing about a decade ago, and we've stayed friends ever since, which is wonderful. And he when he came to meet me the once he'd flown, he used to fly across the world to come and see me, overnight. It was kind of, just amazing, really. And he would arrive and I'd be thinking I'd have the evening with him, and he'd arrive after doing lots of meetings, and I'd meet him at a local area for dinner, and it'd be 10:30. And I'd say, and he said, I'm so sorry, the meeting's, it's all right. I've still got to work on that workaholic thing. And I would laugh and not get angry, because it was showing up for me that, sort of, I'm a workaholic in terms of I'm interested in my work. So that would make me not switch out. So I would do things, late at night, or the meetings would go after 5 o'clock till 8 or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And so that's kind of, in the vein of being a workaholic, that, that's an interest that you always align to your work. And it just made me smile. I just thought, well, I need to sort that one out.
So if someone came to you, a client came to you and said that they were told that they've been working too much, is that a problem? I mean, obviously in a relationship it could be, but if you're happy doing what you're doing and it is taking up a lot of your time, that might not be conducive to overcoming the odds.
That's challenging in the sense that when somebody's enjoying their work, they're usually spending more hours in their work because they enjoy it. And it also could be that work becomes an escape. And that's the thing to look at in that particular instance, because it might be that the person is not feeling happy in their personal life. And so they're target driven and they do well in their work. And so they're going to spend more time in their working environment because they get more positive outcomes. So if there's challenges within their relationship, their family, their intimacy, there is usually a pullback from the personal side and a draw into the physical professional relationship within their working place, because they get all of the experiences of the positivity within their life. So it has to be questioned whether it's they're escaping into their work more and more because they're happier and more content and they're getting things done, and they're happier with the results, because when they go home they're not happy and things aren't working. And that is the case for many people that are super successful, because they have challenges with reconnecting to their emotions and feelings. When you're in a working environment, it's all about what you see and targets, and it's all very mentally alert. But when you take that same energy and vibration into your personal life, that just doesn't work.
So much to think about.
Well, you like to go deep, and I will go deep with you.
We're going there, absolutely. Well, I want to talk a little bit about when you get into a relationship in the seasoned part of your life. So maybe you're 60, maybe you're 70. I've seen this where people want to be with someone and maybe they lost their spouse and they're looking to have a companion, someone to do things with. And I think that's truly beautiful. And I'm wondering what kind of resilience you have to have in that case when you are older. Maybe you have some health challenges and maybe you don't have the kind of independence that you used to have, or maybe you're concerned about your finances. What do you think are some ways that people can be resilient in a relationship when they're older?
I feel that when you're older, you have more wisdom and less ego. That's my feeling in terms of the friendships that I have now and how I was versus how I feel now in my 50s. I feel that most people have achieved most of the things that they want to achieve by the time they're 60 or 70. And yes, the health issues will come into that. And I do feel that there will be less ego in terms of being right or needing to do something. And I feel that when people get together at that time in their life, they've done all of that thrill chasing, they've done all of that stuff that they needed to do to prove themselves. And I feel that it's then, when people come together, it's because they genuinely care for each other. And that love and that care for each other will almost overcome the health issues, because when two people are more mature, there will be possibly health issues on both sides. And I feel that as you get older, there's on one level a more patience, an inner patience, and also an inner irritability, which will combine with each other. That I feel that when you get older, you'll probably be more supportive rather than more pressurizing and argumentative.
I think they're excellent points. And I can even feel that myself at 60 and a half, is that you don't want to waste time. And if something doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. But it's not about ego. It's really about, let's take a look at what we both want and let's figure out a way to make it work, because we don't have to play games. We've already done all the things that, if you think about it, my dad used to say, always make them chase after you. Nobody wants something they can have too easily. And you're not going to buy the milk buy the cow if the milk's free. I don't know, these things.
Oh, wow. Those are the games that, and this is, I'm very against having to play games, because it takes such a lot of energy away from you personally if you're playing games and the other person. If somebody's, waiting for a couple of hours or a day to respond to a text, I just think, oh, for goodness sake, grow up. And I get that, people do it. And, if somebody drops you a message, it's okay to respond back to them straight away. Or if you don't have the time then and you respond, sort of a few hours later or hours later, because that's when you've picked it up, that's okay too. But this game playing of, oh, I better not look too keen, so I won't respond straight away. I'll wait for, a day or 2 days. I just think that's nonsense. And the person will feel that. They will feel that you're playing games, and it makes the other person feel uncomfortable and easy. And that's not a recipe for anything to work.
Yeah, sorry about that, Dad. That's
I guess it's okay. It's something that we do when we're younger because we want to learn the rules. There's a rule book, isn't there? I don't know about this rule book, but there is like certain things that you do and you don't do. And I think when you get to a certain point, those rules, I remember saying I threw that rule book out. I'm not doing any rules anymore. I'm a rule breaker. And it's kind of, there is rules within your work. There is rules. You shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And if he's not doing this, he's not interested. I just think it's a rule book. And who made the rules? I'm here to break them.
Yeah. Bust your stress with the rule breaker. Caroline, I know in your career in working with people, you've worked with couples. And are there any things that you've seen that, and I don't know if you're willing to admit this or not, but during this session, you were thinking to yourself, yeah, these two are not going to make it?
I never think that, because I'm not in their shoes. You can't decide what they're going to do. People come for a couple session because they want to resolve something. They're having challenges and they want to work through it. They wouldn't be seeing anybody if they didn't. I mean, I did couple counselling when I was in my marriage, when I knew that it was going towards the end. And I personally said, if I don't do everything that I feel that I need to do, I would wonder whether I could have saved it. I could have done something different. So I made sure, because I come from the ilk where my mum and dad would say, you make your bed, you lie in it, you stay there, and you make sure that you stay in that relationship for the rest of your life. And so I wanted to do everything possible. And I believe that when people look for couple counselling, that their intention is to find a way to work out what they're not able to work out. And so the very fact that they're in couple counselling is, from my perspective, a positive. And they only can't work it out because you can't work out something from the same consciousness that you created it. And there's always an external person can see what's going on between the two people, because while you're in it, you can't see it. And so when somebody externally shows it up and allows you to see it, it's at that point that you can actually change things. And so I do feel that anybody that's in couple counselling is doing their best to find a way forward. And I applaud anyone that is having challenges and yet seeking help to make things work.
So in your experience, you have not come across a couple where the one says, yeah, I'm only here because she said I had to come, or she said she'd leave me if I didn't come to this therapy session?
I have. And I've seen why as well. And sadly, I have to say that those people don't last. And that's not because I did anything wrong or they did anything wrong. It's just that they got to the point that, their relationship was at an end. And there is no wrong in that. There is only right for the people that are in that relationship. Even though I did everything to make my marriage work and I did everything possible to work out what wasn't working, the marriage had ended. The relationship had gone, and the reasons for that relationship being there had finished. And so there was nothing wrong. Essentially, it was time to part. What it did do is it took me from my family home in Birmingham and it made me move to London. And then I spent 24 years in London. So I don't feel that was a negative. I feel that was a very good, positive move. And I never, ever would have done it. I never would have made that move because unless it was for the marriage, because I was very attached to my hometown of Birmingham. And so from that perspective, I feel that when you're in a relationship, it does task you to do things, that compromise, because it moves you into doing things that you perhaps wouldn't have done.
Excellent. Thank you. And we're coming towards the end of our show, and I think it would be very apropos if you talked a little bit about something that you've shared before. Someone will say, I'm looking for my other half. What do you say about this?
Well, if you're looking for your other half, this is a really, really interesting turn of phrase. And I'm glad that the Americans have it too. When somebody says, I'm looking for my other half, what they're actually saying and really being identified in, they are only half a person. Because if you say, I'm looking for my other half, you're then actually by default saying, I'm only half a person and I'm looking for my other half to make me complete. And even though this sounds like it might be a very endearing thing to say, it means that you're only showing up as half of you. And then you're looking for another half to complete you, which means that you will need to be together, joined at the hip, for you to have a successful relationship. So my invitation to you, and it really is an invitation because it's such an endearing and a lovely thing to say, that our words create spells. When we were at school, we had spelling tests, and the things that we say, the spells, they create spells. So if you're saying, I'm looking for my other half, you are then saying to the universe, to whoever it is within your environment, I'm only half and I'm looking for you to complete me. And that's not a great way to start a relationship. So be complete and be in a totally fulfilling relationship with yourself when you are one complete person and in a fulfilled internal relationship with self, you will meet another fulfilled person that's in a good relationship with themselves. And then two complete whole people will come together in what would be a wonderful relationship.
What a great way to end the show today. Thank you so much, Caroline. For people out there who are in need of some support and some coaching, some mentoring for the relationship for them personally, how can they reach out to you and take advantage of this free stress buster Zoom opportunity you've created?
Thank you. You can reach me on nomorestress at live.co.uk. And reach out and tell me what the problems are, how long you've been in the relationship, and more importantly, where you're from, what your time zone is, because I know this is a global channel. I'm in the UK. And we can work out a time that works for you. So tell me what times are available, your time and UK time. And you can also reach out to me on call if you're international. I have WhatsApp. This is not WhatsApp, this phone number. This number is +44 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. On all my social media posts, my WhatsApp number is there, if that works for you. Or you can reach out to me on Messenger, audio as well as video, and also we will be doing a Skype audio, video, or Messenger audio video. I really look forward to helping you break through the chains of what keeps you confined in an unhappy relationship.
And I can attest to the fact that Caroline is an expert at what she does. She's helped me, especially through my mother's passing, when my mom was passing. So please do reach out to her. And she's made it very easy for you to connect, whether it's on social media, by phone, by email. So please take advantage of this opportunity. All right, Caroline, we will be back on Monday for A Woman's Prerogative. Then you'll be back on Tuesday for Talking Heads. And then will we be back on Friday or not? I don't know.
Yes, first week in the month. Yeah, I'll be back. And then I've got a few weeks off because I'm doing some other things.
Yeah,
traveling, doing other things, trainings, and I'll be in London. So yes, I won't be around for the middle 2 weeks and back again at the end of the month. It's been wonderful, Dr. Jacalyn, and thank you so much for your kind words. Really, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Please do stay watching. Our next show is coming up. It's Coexistence and Sustainability. And I have to tell Pet Psychic Amina, I'm breaking the policy when it comes to the iguanas. I am done. Okay, that's all for now. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
USA Global TV and Radio, in partnership with Dr. Jacalyn LLC, present Amazon #1 best-selling author, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck is a certified life, career, and executive coach who teaches people how to listen at an elevated level through her courses and her books. Dr. Kerbeck teaches her clients how to open their hearts and express themselves through their creative genius. In her children's book series, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor, Dr. Kerbeck teaches children and their families how to listen at an elevated level. Dr. Kerbeck has worked with clients across the world to guide them in how to express themselves and communicate at a highly effective level. Join our team of elevated listeners so you can listen without judgment, without providing a solution, without interruption, and without stealing the stage. To order your books today, go to drjacalyn.com or Amazon.